Hey everyone, we're ready to dive into something we don't talk about nearly enough.
I'm ready.
We're tackling the sexual needs and desires of older women. It's a topic full of misconceptions.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about it. Our society is obsessed with youth. It's like aging, especially for women, is something to hide. And part of that is ignoring women's sexuality as they get older.
It's true, you hit a certain age and it's like poof, desire and intimacy are off the table. But you've shared some fascinating research that paints a very different picture.
Yeah, this deep dive is important for so many reasons. It's not just about sex, but about recognizing that intimacy and pleasure are key parts of well-being at any age.
Totally. Okay, so before we really get going, why is this even a big deal? Why focus on the sexual needs and desires of older women?
Well, imagine you've lived a full life, you feel good, but suddenly society says your desires don't matter anymore.
Like, you're not allowed to want those things.
Exactly. And that's a real experience for so many women. It's isolating and can really damage their sense of self-worth.
You're right. One of the sources even mentioned that this societal silence can actually impact women's health and happiness.
Exactly. Research shows a strong link between sexual well-being and overall well-being, both physically and emotionally. When we ignore older women's sexuality, we're basically saying a part of their life just doesn't matter.
Okay, so let's talk about the myths surrounding older women and sex. We've all heard them, right? Those assumptions that just aren't true.
Oh yeah, these myths are everywhere, so common that they actually make women question their own experiences. Time to debunk them.
Let's do it. Myth number 1. Older women lose their desire. What does the research actually say?
It's very clear many women have active and fulfilling sex lives as they age. Desire might shift, evolve, but it definitely doesn't just vanish. And it's important to remember that desire can look different for everyone.
It's not about comparing, right? A 25-year-old versus a 75-year-old. It's recognizing that desire is complex and can change throughout our lives.
Exactly. And something we often forget is that with age comes a deeper understanding of yourself, more confidence, more self-acceptance, all of which can actually make sexual experiences better.
We'll definitely dig into that more later. But first, let's tackle another myth. The idea that sex just isn't important for older women.
This one's particularly harmful. It pushes that idea that older women are asexual, that their needs are irrelevant. Again, research shows a different story.
So what does it say about the importance of sex and intimacy for them?
Studies show a lot of benefits: increased emotional well-being, less stress, and even physical benefits like better sleep and cardiovascular health. Intimacy and connection clearly play a big role in healthy aging.
It's funny, we accept that exercise and diet are important for a long life, but intimacy and pleasure, we often forget those.
Totally. Which brings us to myth number 3. Older women just can't enjoy sex like younger women.
Ugh, this one always gets to me. It's like aging automatically means less pleasure, which is ridiculous.
It is, and it totally disregards what so many women actually experience. Research actually suggests that with age comes a greater understanding of your own body, more confidence expressing your desires, and a deeper appreciation for the emotional and sensual side of intimacy.
So are we saying that sex gets better with age?
I think for many women, it absolutely can. It becomes less about performance and more about connection, intimacy, and genuine pleasure.
That's a powerful way to look at it. Okay, we've busted some myths, established that intimacy and pleasure are important throughout life, but let's be real. Aging, especially for women, can have challenges when it comes to sexual health.
Definitely. And one of the biggest, as our sources pointed out, is menopause.
Okay, menopause, it's natural, but it has a big impact on a woman's body and therefore her sex life.
Right. A lot of women experience hormonal changes during menopause, things like vaginal dryness, less libido, or discomfort during sex.
And those changes can be really frustrating, even disheartening for women.
Absolutely. But the important thing to remember is that they're not insurmountable.
That's a good point. It's not about pretending they don't exist, but knowing they're there and finding solutions that work.
You got it. There are a lot of things women can do to address these challenges and have fulfilling sex lives.
So what can they do? What solutions are out there?
First and foremost, communication. All the sources, stressed, open, honest dialogue with your partner and your doctor.
That makes sense, but I imagine those conversations can be tough for some women. Any advice on navigating that?
One source said to just start by acknowledging the changes you're experiencing, saying you want to find solutions together. And remember, doctors are there to help. Don't be afraid to ask questions and advocate for your needs.
Great advice. So open communication is step 1. What else can women do to deal with the physical changes impacting their sexual experiences?
Well, you mentioned dryness. That's something a lot of women experience during and after menopause. Good news is lubricants and moisturizers can be really helpful.
Hold on, are we talking about the same stuff you'd use for a bike chain?
Definitely not. We're talking water-based or silicone-based lubes specifically designed for intimate use. They make a big difference in comfort and pleasure.
And moisturizers, how are they different?
Moisturizers are meant to be used regularly to help keep things, well, moist. Lubricants are for during sex for extra comfort. Some products even do both.
So they can be real game changers for women experiencing dryness. What other options are out there for managing the physical and emotional changes of menopause?
One that comes up a lot is hormotherapy, or HRT.
HRT can be a bit controversial, right? What did our sources say?
They said HRT can definitely be effective for managing some menopause symptoms, hot flashes, night sweats, vaginal dryness, but it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. It's crucial to talk to your doctor about the risks and benefits.
So it's a personal decision, best made with a healthcare provider. Any other advice from the sources for women navigating this stage of life?
One source made a really great point about expanding our definition of intimacy. It's not just about penetration. There are tons of other ways to connect with a partner and experience pleasure.
You're talking about emotional connection, touch, exploration, all those things that make you feel close and loved.
Exactly. And as we get older, those parts of intimacy can become even more meaningful.
So true. It reminds us that sexuality is a journey, not a destination. You figure out what works for you in each stage.
And that leads us to the empowering part of this whole discussion. Older women deserve to feel confident and in control of their sexual well-being.
Yes, it's about taking back your sexuality, owning your desires, and saying, hey, I'm still here and I matter.
Exactly. And the sources offer some great tips for how to do just that.
Okay, let's hear them. What are some practical steps our listeners can take?
Well, first and foremost, prioritize self-care. This is a theme that runs throughout all the material. Your sexual health is a part of your overall well-being, so treat it that way.
So regular checkups, paying attention to your body, and making choices that support your physical and emotional health.
Precisely. And it's not just about going to the doctor. It's about a lifestyle that nourishes you.
I love that. It's about taking ownership of your health and happiness. Sexual well-being is a part of that.
Another key tip is to stay curious. Don't be afraid to explore your desires and try new things, whether that's with a partner or on your own.
That's so important. It's easy to get stuck in routines, but sexuality is a journey.
Absolutely. And as you age, your body changes, your desires may change. And that's okay. It's an opportunity.
It's like that saying, the only constant is change, embrace it.
Exactly. And finally, the sources really emphasize challenging stereotypes.
This is where we push back against those ageist notions that tell older women how they should feel or behave.
Right. You get to define your own sexuality on your own terms, regardless of what society says.
And that's so empowering. It's about saying, my desires are valid, my needs are important, I'm not invisible.
You got it. And that's the message I really hope our listeners take away from this.
Me too. Because here's the truth, and I think the sources make this abundantly clear. The journey of self-discovery and sexual expression doesn't have an age limit. It's a lifelong adventure.
So true. And you know what really struck me as we were going through all this material? The emphasis on seeking out information and support.
Yeah, that's a great point. Knowledge is power, right? The more you understand about your body, about the changes with aging, the more equipped you'll be to navigate those changes and advocate for your needs.
And you don't have to do it alone. Talk to your partner, your friends, your healthcare provider. There are resources available and people who want to help.
Absolutely. And I'm thinking back to something we talked about earlier, debunking that myth about sex not being as enjoyable for older women. Do you think there's a connection between that myth and the lack of information and support available?
I think there's definitely a link. If we're told our desires are fading or that sex isn't as important, we're less likely to seek out help when we encounter challenges.
And that's a real disservice because, like we've been saying, intimacy and pleasure are vital parts of a fulfilling life no matter your age.
Exactly. And think about the potential ripple effects. If we start normalizing these conversations, if we create more open and supportive environments, imagine how that could empower women to feel more confident, more comfortable in their own skin, more connected to their partners.
It's about breaking down taboos and creating a culture where women feel seen, heard, and validated.
Absolutely. And you know, this is a conversation that benefits everyone, not just older women.
That's such an important point. When we challenge ageist stereotypes about sexuality, we're creating a more inclusive and accepting society for everyone.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that sexuality is a diverse and fluid aspect of human experience, and it evolves throughout our lives.
And that's a beautiful thing.
It really is.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a thought. What can you do today to start prioritizing your sexual health and well-being?
That's a great question. And I'd add, how can you challenge those ageist stereotypes, not just for yourself, but for the women in your life? These conversations matter, and they have the power to create real change.
Absolutely. Let's keep this conversation going. We'll be back in a moment with our final thoughts and a little something extra to get you making. Don't go away. We're back. And as we wrap this up, I'm feeling kind of hopeful.
Me too. It's really powerful, shining a light on a topic that's usually kept quiet.
It is. We're giving a voice to an experience that's been pushed aside for too long. And like we saw in the research, there's so much more to it than those old stereotypes.
Totally. The sources really highlighted that sexuality is a lifelong journey. And the changes that come with age, especially for women, they don't have to mean less intimacy or pleasure.
It's about adapting, exploring, finding what works for you at different points of life.
And remembering you're not alone. There's help out there, healthcare pros who specialize in women's sexual health, and a whole community of women who are embracing their sexuality.
That's inspiring to see. And I think it's worth noting this isn't just for women who are going through those changes right now. It's for all of us.
You're right. When we challenge those ageist stereotypes and talk openly about sexuality, we all benefit.
It's about a culture where women of all ages feel empowered to embrace their desires and needs.
Exactly. And that brings me to something I wanted to share as we wrap up.
Okay, I'm listening.
What if instead of seeing aging as, decline, what if we saw it as a time of liberation?
That's interesting. Tell me more.
Think about it. We get older and we shed those societal expectations. We're more comfortable with ourselves, more freedom to explore our desires without the pressures we felt when we were younger.
Like we finally have permission to just be ourselves.
Exactly. And that's empowering, not just sexually, but in every way.
I love that. So to everyone listening, embrace your journey, explore your desires. Don't ever let anyone tell you your sexuality has an expiration date.
You are vibrant, you are worthy, and your story is far from over.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the sexual needs and desires of older women. We'll see you next time.